City of Stevens Point Board of Public Works Committee meeting, recorded October 12, 2020.
Okay, with that, I will call the Board of Public Works meeting to order. Tricia, could we get a roll call, please? Tricia, are you there? She's not able to unmute or something, so I will call the roll. Mayor Wiesa is present. Alder Slowinski. I see his name here, so we're going to count him. Comptroller Treasurer Laddick.
Here. Alder
Kneebone.
Here.
Morrow.
Here.
Jennings.
Here.
Zarazua.
Here.
By my account, everyone is present, so we will continue. First one is the director's report. Let's see. I don't see Director Badoon on here yet. Director,
I'm here.
Are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Where are you? There you are. Okay, gotcha. All right, Director, anything on your report that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, just excuse me, just a couple of things. First, the two current projects, street improvement and road servicing projects, just want to let everyone know they're wrapping up. Road servicing should definitely be done this week. Today's rain may have set us back a little bit on paving on the street improvement project, which is the one closer to the university, but still is it's about the only thing remaining is just the final paving for the project. So we're very close to the end, which is good to see. Puts us several weeks ahead of schedule still. But with the street improvement project, just wanted to let everyone know there is a final resolution will be presented at the council meeting next weekend for special assessments related to just a couple of storm laterals that were added as part of that project. I always like to give everyone a heads up what they'll see on the council agenda. So that covers those two. And then the last one I had to talk about for tonight was the 2021 street improvement project. And just want to let everyone know we haven't said too much of it. We've been trying to work through some things, as is always the case with the street improvements project. Those are our large reconstructs. So we're always trying to balance the road surface needs with the utility needs. And I've been working with Director Lemke and staff to try to come up with, been a couple of hiccups in kind of pinpointing the exact benefits of some of the stormwater improvements we wanted to put in. And one of the big things we're trying to accomplish this year, and actually over the next couple of years here as we put into the programming going back to 2017, is relieving some of the flooding that has been prone to that area there by making some significant improvements there. We probably won't be able to correct every little thing that happens out there, but definitely trying to make some strides in the right direction there. So that's kind of where we're at now. Should be seeing some things coming out on that here in the hopefully very near future.
Thank you very much, Director. We did have a question from Alder Jennings, and then another question for President Johnson related to the Director's report. Alder Jennings.
Yes, Director Badoon, I'm wondering if you could, for the record and for a matter of transparency, please explain what happened to HH and bike facilities at Ben Franklin Junior High School. I only found out about this after the painting project was underway. I later found out that the Stevens Point School Board knew nothing about it. I reached out to a couple of Stevens Point board supervisors, and they investigated conversations through the highway committee that were apparently not made public, because our council and our bike peg commission certainly didn't know about it. The decisions for the TAP grant were not arbitrary. This particular section was important for safe routes to schools and improving roadway safety and creating multimodal connections, which is at the heart of the TAP grant. So back in, all the way back in January 21st, 2020, apparently you were, according to the records from Portage County, you commented that eliminating that portion of the work for the grant would not have a significant impact on the grant or the overall project. I guess I I have to disagree with that section of roadway. But again, I'm asking this question now, even though the project is finished, just as a matter of transparency and the fact that a lot of people didn't know about this. And had we known about it, it might have been pushed for a little bit harder, because now we've lost the only opportunity to improve roadway safety for that section of roadway, probably in most of our lifetimes. So I guess I'm feeling a bit disappointed about that. But if you could enlighten us, I'd appreciate it.
I guess before I do, I guess I would like to, I mean, this seems to be coming into this topic of how we use the director's report. I don't have a problem answering the question, but I guess I would ask.
Sure,
because all the questions last time
it wasn't listed. And Logan can stop me if I'm wrong, but we've talked about this a couple of times. We're talking about the 2020 street improvement project, road surface, and 2021 improvement projects. Alder, perhaps you could contact the director outside of this, and maybe we can get an update if we need to at the Common Council meeting.
Mayor, you called upon me to speak. The TAP grant is under.
I did. I did. I think you're getting outside of the items that we were scheduled to discuss on the director's report.
Okay.
And again, city attorney, jump in if you feel that I'm overstepping here, but we've talked about this multiple times, and we're still dealing with these items on the director's report that aren't a topic. Alder, if in the future, if you want to comment on one of the items within the director's report, ask the director to include that topic as directly in the agenda, and then we can discuss it. But it's not fair to anybody else who might have been interested in this, including those members of the school board that you talked to, the county highway department. If we start discussing these things without a public input, we're not being very transparent.
Mayor, I'm looking at the agenda and seeing 2020 street improvement, 2020 road surfacing project, and 2021 street improvements project. We do keep going back over this topic over and over again, but yes, we cannot use the director's report contents as a substitute for our notice that we put out to satisfy open meetings.
I'm sorry, I have to apologize. This is entirely my fault. I did print off the I was looking at the October 7 Director of Public Works report, even though I have the agenda for today in front of me. So I saw TAP grant listed under engineering division. So entirely my fault. I apologize for that, and I will follow up with Director Badun. Apologies.
Thank you. And in the future, certainly if anyone has questions about the director's reports, any of the director's reports, you can contact the directors directly. I guess that's a lot of direction. Or we could add it as a subset under that director's report, and then it's okay to talk about. We can amend the agenda if we have to, or if you know in advance, that would be much easier, that you want to talk about a specific item, and we can avoid this in the future. Thank you. President Johnson, you had a question as well.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Trying to keep everything turned off because my dogs are barking. But just a quick question for Director Badun on the 2020 streets improvement. So I can't seem to get away from the fact that people recognize my face. And as I was going for a walk this afternoon, I was on Illinois by the hospital. And someone came out of their home and said they recognized me and asked about when the second coat of asphalt's going to be going down and the cleaning up of that corridor. And I said I would ask.
You said you would ask, yes. And it's, of course, weather dependent. We lost some ground today. American Asphalt was supposed to be paving all the unpaved roads, get there. And then later in this week, they were supposed to come in and do all the final paving for the entire project. I don't know exactly what there is. I'll have to check with them tomorrow. They're hoping to even get out and start doing some more grading tonight if it dried out enough. But the intent should be either late this week or early next week. Paving should be completed.
Awesome. I'm sure I will see that person again, and I will let them know unless they see the pavers outside their home. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding the director's report? Alder Kneebone.
I just wanted to say thank you on the Walter Street project. Even though it's not quite done yet, I've already seen people walking on the new sidewalk. So I think that's a great addition to the neighborhood. So kudos to the crew. And I think there's some asphalt work that's just about done there too. And I was thinking the rain would have set them back a bit, but it looks great. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Director Badoon, you have someone present from AECom.
I do, and it appears that she is on. Amy
I need to
Canfield
turn
is
over
here.
control to Amy.
Yeah.
Is there a presentation?
There's not a presentation, just discussion tonight. So,
okay. So item number 2 is an update on the Business 51 project by AECom Technical Services, and that means Amy. Amy, go ahead.
Thanks. So I'm Amy Canfield. I'm the manager for the Business 51 project that we're doing in Stevens Point, and wanted to be here tonight to share with you guys some of the public involvement activities that have been going on, and just make sure everybody is, up to speed on where we're at with the project. So about a few weeks ago, we started announcing that we were going to be sharing information with the public. And on September 29th, it's a Tuesday, we posted a presentation. It was a pre-recorded presentation using PowerPoint slides and things. And we also had several exhibits that we put on the project website for people to view. So the items that we put up there focused on the existing conditions of the corridor, some of the corridor needs, the various alternatives that we're starting to consider, as well as some potential bicycle connection options. So we advertised these to adjacent property owners. They all received a postcard in the mail that gave them links to the website and told them when to go find this information. And then we also utilized the city's Facebook and Twitter accounts quite a bit over the past several weeks to try and, drum up support for this as well. To date, when I checked this morning, we had more than 400 views on the presentation that was put out there on the website. And I've been, impressed too with some of the shares and comments and things that have been generated on the social media side of things. So that means of outreach, I think, is definitely working, and there's a few of you I recognize who attended some of these Q&A sessions and things and shared posts and whatnot. So that's really great to see. We did hold 3 live Q&A sessions with the public that people could attend. There was one in the evening on September 29th, and there was 2 on October 1st. One was a noon hour session, and the other one was another evening session to try and accommodate some different schedules there. And those were Zoom meetings just like this, where people could type in comments, and then we had a short, like a 5 to 10 minute presentation in the beginning, and then we just addressed comments as they came in for the next 50 minutes. And we had about 30 members of the public on the first meeting and about 15 to 20 on the other 2 that were on Thursday for each one. And I thought those went well as well in terms of people asking questions. We were able to get through basically all the questions on the 3 meetings. So that was good to see. And it was participatory, and back and forth. And then from the social media side of things, I mentioned we've been using the city's Facebook and Twitter pages. So since about September 12th-ish, I want to say that week was our first post. Week of September, I think the 14th was a Monday. We've been putting up about 3 posts a week, and ranging from raising awareness that we're even doing the project, or having public Q&A sessions, that the survey was available. And now lately we're kind of transitioning into trying to clear up some misconceptions or share like educational information about some of the alternatives and parts of the project that we're noticing, either people are consistently questioning in the meetings, or, based on some of the preliminary survey results, we can see, kind of where things are going. So we're going to continue to use that, social media forum to share information, with the public there too. And then, finally, we have an online survey too right now that is active. And information again was sent out, in those postcards as well as via social media. For that one, the survey takes about 5 minutes it's taking for people to complete, and it's 20 questions long. And the questions are meant to get at the type of needs that the corridor has and potential for some larger alternatives, like, do we have a preference for like 2 lanes versus 4 lanes, not necessarily a specific thing in the south segment or, any other segment. The survey opened on September 29th, so it's been running for a couple of weeks now, and the last day of it is this Friday. We've seen some really good turnout in the past week alone. So we got off to like a slower start in the beginning. We had a post last week, Wednesday, on the Facebook page that specifically encouraged people to go take the survey. We had a 245 person spike that day. And when I checked it today, we're up to 1,000 responses on that survey of individuals that have, been engaging with the project. So it's really great, to see that too. And generally speaking, as I've been watching the results and stuff kind of come in for the various questions, which once it's over, we'll share some more information on, what we're seeing there. The results have been pretty stable, whether there was 150 participants or 1,000 participants, we're trending, very similar with most of the answers. So some of the takeaways and things we're seeing there now, we asked specific questions about whether people viewed the presentation before taking the survey, and viewed the exhibits, or if they were just coming into it cold, without educating themselves. And it looks like about 1/3 of the people who are responding to the survey checked the box that said they didn't look at anything, which also makes sense because if you think, well, when I checked this earlier today, I'll have to go back and look at the presentation. But at one point when I looked, there was, about 700 survey responses and about 400 presentation views, which kind of makes sense for that like 1/3 of people who are looking at it. And we asked a question about needs. People definitely see the pavement need out there. That's a dominant one that everybody wants to fix right off the bat. Safety was also in the top 3 so far, and traffic flow is up there. So one of the things that's interesting, about this project and as we go forward and kind of, working through that educational piece too, is that on the engineering side of the coin, traffic flow isn't necessarily one of the official needs of the project right now, because we see traffic flow at acceptable levels of service currently and projected in the future. So we were putting out a few questions just to, get an idea of what the public's perception, though, is of some of the things out there too. And then other infrastructure, components we ask questions on include the bike ped relationship. We know we have several areas in the corridor where we have a lot of constrained environment, and we may not be able to fully satisfy like all bicycle or all pedestrian needs. So we asked a few questions too, leaning towards, preferences on bicycle and pedestrian accommodations, and, whether people will be willing to favor kind of one over the other. It comes down to that in areas where we're really in a constrained environment too. So that's out there. There's some questions that asked too about potential lane reductions and what people think from a traffic perspective. And, I think we anticipated that these were going to come back telling us that, the majority of people thought that there would be traffic impacts, that were negative into potentially removing a lane. That is what we're seeing, too. We're not seeing the negative impacts. We're seeing people responding that way. And we wanted to use that too as kind of a baseline to gauge, kind of what are we dealing with? If we have a baseline here and then we continue this educational campaign and we ask similar questions in another 4-ish months when we have more details on paper, are we moving the needle at all? And are people, recognizing that there's more to potentially reducing lanes on Business 51 than just traffic flow, from a livability perspective, from a safety perspective, from improving that pedestrian environment. So that's something we'll need to kind of work through here in the future. And then finally, in terms of next steps. So next steps for this is that the survey runs through the end of this week. And we're now going to be moving into that stage where we're actually designing some of these alternatives, for the corridor. So if you have, a bird's eye view and you look down, you can see a plan view of what this alternative might look like. And we'll be calculating impacts. We'll be looking at different costs and then making kind of a benefits matrix. What are some of the key benefits that come out of these various things and how do they compare to each other? So, that's typically the stuff everybody wants to see, and that they all care about and want on paper right now. So we'll be meeting with our stakeholders group again a couple more times here over the next several months, and then working towards taking that more detailed information back to the public later this winter, after the holidays. We're talking probably the end of January, February kind of time frame in there too. So that is my big overview or high level overview. If anybody has any specific questions on anything, too happy to entertain those. Oh, Louise, I think you're on mute.
CEO is being courteous. Does anybody have any specific questions for Amy? President Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Canfield. I've had a virtual constituent meeting on Saturday afternoon, and they were very complimentary to the amount of information you've been providing and on the degree to which you've been listening to their concerns. My district, of course, is on the east side of this corridor. In fact, I'm only about 30 feet from the drive lane from where I'm speaking right now. One of the constituents had a really good suggestion, is that they like the way you're providing a lot of different information, but they had suggested something that was, is there something you can do to show how it would work? And I'll give you an example. The Emerson Park, which is in my district or adjacent to my district, we've been working with Rettler Corporation, and they did this wonderful fly through of what it would look like if someone was walking through that park as we're working to redevelop that. And this person said, if we could do something like that. So for instance, they really were concerned about the corridor at Franklin Street, a division in Franklin. Of course, a lot of pedestrian traffic, bike traffic, why everything going on. What would that look like as you were driving through, if you were, sort of in this virtual world? Is there something that can be done to, because, when you're doing it on paper, I can understand it, but some folks need that extra visual. They want to feel it, understand it. So it was a great suggestion. They weren't opposed to the lane reduction. They were concerned about it. They would love to see what it looks like if it actually happened. So I'm hoping that as you do this, that's another sort of media that you might be able to employ.
Yep, and I think that's a great suggestion too. We can talk with Director Badoon and some of the other team. But as we move to this next phase we're getting in, where we're actually getting that design going, that's where things like these renderings and potential like a fly through like you're talking about comes into play when we get in here. And I think I agree with you. I'm a very visual person too. So the more visuals that we can provide, I think are going to help people concept this, especially the 4-lane to 2-lane reduction. Because if we're looking at talking about things like livability and what it means to be standing on Division Street right now with 1 foot of concrete or grass terrace separating you from the cars, and the difference that 6 feet might make, I think that is going to be more obvious through a visual. We actually have a Facebook post going up tomorrow that kind of talks about that concept too, with a couple pictures.
Wonderful.
To try and
the comment was, I'm trying to visualize it. That was the comment.
Exactly. Yeah, trying to visualize it too. And another thing to that point as well, in terms of visualizing it, that I'm noticing come through on the survey a lot. And I think it was also related to the fact that the city just did all these TAP grant bicycle improvements, is that people seem very hung up on the fact that if we do a 4-lane to 2-lane reduction, that automatically means that space goes to bike lanes.
Right.
And it doesn't have to automatically mean that space goes to bike lanes. It could be used to improve the pedestrian environment. It could be used for, on-street parking if people wanted it, or other things, too. So trying to get over that hump that it's not an automatic, that's what it's for. There's other things on the table.
Yeah. Thank you.
Amy, another suggestion, because I know President Johnson mentioned that Franklin and Division Street intersection. Talk to people at the firehouse. Chief Finn is on tonight. I see that. I know people at the YMCA see these things frequently. That's a really complicated intersection. So I want to make sure that when we do a rendering, we get all of the feedback that we need to.
Yep, and we have with Chief Finn as well as another member of his staff too, are ready to talk about the emergency services potential impacts and things too up there by 4th Avenue.
Perfect. Or we're going to win the lottery and move the fire station. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Please make sure you talk to your constituents. Let them know that the process is continuing. Get them involved now, because 2 years from now is going to be too late. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. Next on the agenda is a consideration of a proposed ordinance amendment under section 9.05 of the revised municipal code as it relates to parking. We're still working on this. It's going to be a project for a while. Director Badoon.
Yeah, parking never seems to otherwise go away. Plenty of things to deal with there. There's two things actually being presented tonight. One is just an update of the exhibit that got overlooked last month related to the bike lanes and how that impacts the paid for parking kiosk area by the university. So just kind of completing that. The other part is something that Alder Shore brought to our attention. Some constituents were wondering about when, in fact, is this 2-hour parking enforced? And so we thought it would be best to get a little clarity there and get that, into the ordinance to make sure if you're talking with the police department on exactly how it otherwise is supposed to work. So just to clarify exactly that and make sure that ultimately the ordinance and the signage match and everybody's clear and understands what the rules are.
Oh, so after this, we'll all be fine then.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. Any questions for the director regarding the ordinance change? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second by Morrow. Let's see. Alder Shore. They said 2-hour parking limits on weekends don't really make sense. Sure, Alder Shore, did you want to elaborate on any of that?
Just that that was the nature of the concern. That
okay.
2-hour parking was probably a weekday thing and intended as such. But,
sure.
But the signage says basically 7 days.
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinances as presented. Unmute yourself and I will do a roll call or a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that is approved, and we are adjourned at 6:28 to personnel.
Videos of these meetings are available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.